Has anyone ever seen you struggling and then asked you, do you need any help? And before you even give yourself a chance to think, you reply automatically, nope, I'm fine. Even when it is so obvious that you are not fine. I know I have done that more than once. And for years, I thought that that was simply who I was. I didn't like asking for help. Not because I thought I was being an inconvenience, but because I genuinely didn't know how to ask for help. I didn't know that asking for help was something I was allowed to do, because somewhere deep inside, I truly believed help wasn't something that applied to me. Not because anyone had ever said those words to my face, but because my nervous system had quietly reached that conclusion all by itself. For most of my life, I felt invisible. So, of course, I learned to work things out on my own. No one was coming to save me. So I learned how to fend for myself. I became really clever, really smart, really capable. I was reliable-ish and resourceful. People would describe me as headstrong and independent and fearless. But I wasn't fearless because I wanted to be. I was fearless because I was too terrified not to be. I was afraid of rejection. I feared abandonment. I was lonely. I felt so much shame and crippling guilt about the death of my brother. And those experiences quietly shaped me into a fiercely self-sufficient little girl. By the time I was 10, I had completely locked down the part of me that needed other people. Wanting someone to help me, to comfort me, to care about me, had become just too painful. So I stopped hoping. I forgot that I needed people. And for years, I genuinely believed that was simply my personality. And I wasn't angry about that. I wasn't bitter. It just seemed to be the truth. I was meant to help other people 100%. But nobody was meant to help me. And sadly, for a very long time, I believed that was true. So what I've come to understand through both my work creating Neuro Heart Alchemy and my own personal experience is that there is a huge difference between who we are and who our nervous system needed us to become at certain stages in our lives. So for years, I thought my independence reflected confidence. I thought I was really confident, but looking back, I can see that much of my confidence was just my nervous system adaptation, because if as a child, asking for help did not feel safe, if your emotional needs were consistently not met, if relying on other people led to disappointment, your nervous system learned something incredibly intelligent, incredibly fast. Not because anyone teaches you, but because experience teaches it repeatedly. And over time, your nervous system creates a way of protecting you from the pain and the hurt that you feel. And slowly, that adaptive behavior, that protection, becomes a belief. It becomes a belief that quietly says, the safest person for me to rely on is me. And sometimes that belief morphs into a deeper belief, which is I am alone. That belief isn't true. It is the conclusion your nervous system reached based on what it experienced. This isn't weakness, and it definitely isn't dysfunction. It doesn't mean that something is wrong with you, because this makes perfect sense as an adaptation. The difficulty is that what once protected us can quietly become part of our identity. We own it. We think it is us. We stop saying, I learned to become independent. And we start saying, I'm just independent. I'm really independent. We wear it almost like a badge of honor. And perhaps it is part of who you are. I'm not here to tell you who you are. And there's nothing wrong with being independent. But what if an overwhelming need to be independent isn't simply your personality? What if it began as your nervous system's way of protecting you from being hurt? What then? One of the biggest shifts in my own healing came when I stopped asking, why am I like this? Why am I alone? And I started asking, what happened that made my nervous system respond in this way? That question changed everything because it replaced judgment with curiosity. I realized my independence wasn't something that I needed to get rid of. It was something that I needed to understand. Healthy independence is a truly beautiful thing. It allows us to make decisions, to express ourselves freely, to stand confidently and assuredly on our own 2 feet. But healthy independence also leaves room to receive, to let someone care for us deeply, passionately. It allows us to ask for help without feeling guilty, without feeling like a burden, without wondering what we now owe in return, waiting for the other shoe to drop. And that's very different from believing we have to carry everything alone. The tragedy is the very thing that once protected us from being hurt can quietly prevent us from feeling deeply loved. One of the things Neuro Heart Alchemy has taught me is that many of the qualities we're most proud of began as intelligent survival strategies. The goal isn't to lose them. The goal is to understand them, because once you understand why they developed, you finally have a choice about how you want to respond to them today. And that is where true freedom begins. Not when you become somebody different, but when your nervous system no longer needs yesterday's protection to feel safe today. Perhaps that's the greatest gift understanding can give us. Not a different identity, but the freedom to become our fully embodied selves. So if today's conversation has left you thinking, that does sound a bit like me, you can relate to what I'm sharing, I created a free Neuro Heart Alchemy assessment to help you begin recognizing the adaptive patterns your nervous system may still be carrying. You'll find the link in the description, and if today's conversation has helped you understand yourself just a little bit differently, then I hope you meet yourself gently. And if it has, I'd love to hear from you. Please leave me a comment. And if you'd like to continue exploring these conversations with me, then I warmly invite you to subscribe to this channel, because this channel will become the Trust Archive, which is a growing library of conversations that explore everyday human experience through the lens of the nervous system. Each video asks another why, until what once felt confusing finally begins to make sense. Because understanding changes everything. Thank you for listening, and thank you for allowing me to be part of your journey.